Mabuhay, everyone. Live and go beyond existing. And today is July 6th, 2021, and it's 8:33 p.m. here in Manila, Philippines. And I want to greet all my friends in the States good morning, especially I'm going to have a class later. So I trust that my students are watching the class. So, every time we start the show, I always mention the word mabuhay, and it's a Filipino word actually, which encourages us to live and go beyond existing. We weren't just born to uh, go to work and then rest and then pay the bills. And to me, one of the things that really shifted me was when I started learning Reiki healing for myself. And today we have a special guest whom I'm very happy to have here in the show because she's my Reiki Master. And we've developed our relationship over the last 11 years and counting. And I'm so happy because, she's preparing for the Reiki convention on September 2021. And she's developed a lot of Reiki healers over the years. So without further ado, let me give you a brief background of our guest. Isa, or Lilian Jarales-Hewlett, is a cosmic healer. She heals people and works energetically with the earth and the angels. She is a Reiki Master teacher since 2007, a Taoist medicine practitioner, a certified BTB feng shui practitioner, TCM practitioner, holistic health practitioner coach, through Ever Coach, and an angel light worker and a spiritual guide. She started meditation at 8 years old by laying hands for healing, and at the age of 12, because of this early awakening, her life was led to service, passion, and mission. She has a long experience of working in the development work and religious institutions. She spreads her mission mainly in Caribbean, Hong Kong, Philippines, and other parts of the world. She pioneered programs like the Earth Intuitive Apprenticeship, Angel Lightwork Program, Reiki Professional Training, and she is also a co-founder of the Hewlett Wellness Center in British Virgin Islands and Reiki Wellness Manila. Master Isa goes beyond her work by bringing healing to the communities of the most fortunate and the least fortunate people as well. Her passion is also her mission. She is a wife to Goth Hewlett, a spiritual martial artist, and a mother and stepmother to seven beautiful children. So, let's give her a round of applause, please.
Thank you very much, Rich. So nice to
Yes.
see you again.
Yes, thank you, Master Isa, because we've developed a long-term relationship. I'm so grateful because before I became ordained as a minister, it was Reiki that was my first certified energy healing certificate. So I'm glad that you're very devoted to it and that you've been developing leaders over the years because especially Master Isa last month, we just celebrated the Pride Month. And I think one of the most healing things I did for myself was to go through a Reiki healing session with you. And in fact, I would encourage a lot of LGBTQ plus members to actually have a Reiki session because it's one of the most powerful, transformative healing techniques that I've experienced for myself, especially practicing loving kindness for oneself and letting go of all types of self criticism. So, anyway, Master, thank you again for doing it devotedly. And with this Reiki Council, I know you're developing leaders. So, what's the goal, Master Isa? Where are you bringing this?
Okay. So we are now forming the Reiki Philippine Reiki Affiliate Council. No? It's the coming together of different Reiki practitioners, regardless of your lineage. Why are we coming together? Because we have been experiencing and practicing Reiki for a very long time. And it's time to come together to make the Reiki practice um, popular, more popular in the mainstream, no mainstream practice, and coming together will have a voice. Now will make give us a voice. That Reiki is a complementary practice, a healing therapy, a spiritual practice that one can really be, everyone can be benefited by practicing it and applying it to anyone who needs healing. Now, so in other countries, Reiki is already recognized. So coming together as a group of Reiki practitioners will help us bring Reiki into a different level of practice. So we started to um, introduce this last year in the Reiki conference, and now we are starting to form the organization. Um, and of course, we are now inviting all the Reiki practitioners, regardless of the lineage, to join us and form the bigger circle of the Reiki practitioners to help to help the world, the Philippines, the humanity.
Yes, it's such a beautiful endeavor. And I know very well one of the benefits of Reiki is that people can come together in loving kindness. At least for myself, that's what I experienced. So, one of the things that's very good about it is that it unifies people, it brings people together, especially one of the things that I didn't realize that was going to happen with the Pride Month was that parents were also concerned about their LGBTQ plus children. And
Mm,
I think it's such an amazing space to share that it's not only the LGBTQ people who will benefit from it, but also the parents. And the
mm,
reason why I'm voicing this out is because, with Reiki, there's really no verbal communication. There's more
mhm.
laying of hands or touch if a person is comfortable. So it's such a powerful, transformative way to connect people together. And because both of us, Master Ice, had experienced Reiki healing, for those people who
Mhm.
are totally oblivious to what Reiki is and what it can do, please mention briefly what it can do for them.
Yes. First, Reiki is a spiritual and healing technique. So when one comes to a Reiki session, first one can have the peace of mind. That's why anyone who experiences Reiki can really feel so relaxed. And second, in the research, it has already been shown that Reiki can really relieve pain. Now, I myself have experienced that in healing other people with pain with cancer or any pain in the body. So it relieves stress, it relieves pain. One can really have like an expanded feeling, like something has happened to them that awakened them. So it's like an awakening experience, and one can really have a rejuvenated body after Reiki practice or Reiki healing. And one can really be led into a deeper understanding of life that happens during the healing sessions. It's because when you go into a healing session, it's like a meditation. So that's why it's really a physical healing and also a mind and spiritual healing experience.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, Master Isa. And Dr. Roguzman is actually here. She's watching all the way from Valenzuela. And she's also one of the people whom I know has experienced Reiki herself. And just to add to what Master Isa mentioned earlier, because she talked about feeling free from any form of pain physically, but at that time for me, I felt liberated from pain emotionally. And this is something that I would like to share with everyone because a lot of the discomfort in the physical body actually comes from us neglecting the emotional pain because the
Yeah.
emotional pain was there for such a long time before there was any form of physical pain. And good morning, Reverend Michael Belford, who's watching all the way from New York. So,
Yeah.
uh, going back to it, Master Isa, we both know that going through any form of physical discomfort, first it goes through a mental, emotional process of pain before there's any form of physical discomfort. And please explain it because I think it's so important for people to realize that Reiki can also be a form of self care and self maintenance.
Yeah, that's really true. Before anyone experiences a physical pain, everything happens first on the non-physical plane. And the non-physical plane or form that we have are the emotions, the mental, and the spiritual state. So almost all of the diseases happens on that level first, on the non-physical, before it manifests into the physical body. So whatever we experience now, let's say fear, worries, if we experience that for a very long time, it can manifest in different illness. And this has been the way we understand different illnesses, mostly in the Eastern medicine, no? And Reiki is a Japanese technique. So, like saying the traditional Chinese medicine, worries are related to any problem on the spleen and stomach. Anger is related to any problem on the liver and the gallbladder. So Reiki can really be a self-care in dealing with those non-physical state, no, any imbalance on the non-physical state, because Reiki as an energy healing, although it affects the physical body, as an energy healing, it deals first with the energetics or the non-physical state, which are your thoughts, emotions, and spiritual state. So as a self-care, Reiki first, as a Reiki practitioner, you will be led first into learning how to do a self healing. So if you are a Reiki practitioner, then self care goes with the self healing. And if you are non Reiki practitioner, self care with Reiki goes into having a Reiki to address and to balance the energy. Because how we look physically is based also on the state of our energies. So the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual state.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Master Isa. It's such a powerful thing to learn because a lot of us are spending a lot of money on traditional medicine, and a lot of people go through very expensive forms of treatment, which is actually something that has been practiced for many decades. But we both know that energetic healing or spiritual healing has been around since ancient history.
Yes.
And it
Yeah.
just so happened that Reiki is something that particularly originated in Japan with Master Sui. So just to open up the consciousness of the rest of the collective, Master Isa, please talk about the brief history of Reiki and Master Usui.
Yes. So Master Mika Usui is the known founder or the one who the one who really taught Reiki, no, to everyone. But we have to know that the Reiki means spiritual energy. Rei means spiritual, and Ki means energy. So it's a generic name, and there are many Reiki groups or practitioners in Japan, and Mikao Usui was just one. So Mikao Usui was really a spiritual um, practitioner. No, he started to really be formed into a Tendai Buddhist monastery at the age of 6. And then he grew up really leading into a spiritual path until in 1924, no, he had this awakening experience. Although before he was already teaching the hands-on healing, but not really called the Mikao Usui Reiki. But in 1924, in his awakening experience, that's when he started to really teach Reiki to the people in Japan. So he started teaching to the group of people, like say the beggars and those who really need healing. And that's how he started. But let us really know that when we say Mika Usui Reiki, it is based on Mika Usui's teaching of Reiki. But we have to know that there are many Reiki groups in Japan.
Thank you for sharing that, Master Isa, because we know that Gary Chapman wrote a book called The Five Love Languages. And one of
Mm-hmm.
the things that he taught was that, you know, if you want to communicate with your loved one, it's not only about a verbal communication. Another form of
Mm-hmm.
communication and connection with your loved one is through touch. And I find Reiki very effective for it. And before I
Mm-hmm.
continue my questions, let me just say hi to Elira. She's now Dr. Elira, by the way. She finished her
Ah,
doctorate degree in University of Metaphysics.
wow.
Congratulations. So, anyway, it's such an important thing that we want to recognize Dr. Elira for, because she did research on mystical healing practices and mystical counseling. So, it's still a growing idea here in the Philippines where we welcome the thought that there is another way aside from the allopathic medicine. We also have this alternative form of healing, but like what Master Isa said, you know, this isn't just something that's new. It's been around for a really long time. And even here in the Philippines, our ancestors also had their own form of healing. And I want to go back briefly, Master Isa, to what you mentioned, that you were a young kid and you felt that you had that capacity to energetically heal. Please tell us more about it, because we know that a lot of the great teachers and healers actually started that way.
Yeah. Uh, at the age of 8, I was introduced to meditation. And of course, during the time, because I was just a young kid, and meditation is really about becoming silent, becoming holy, etc. So I really grew up with really thinking following Christ because of that. And then when I was 12, I was already doing a lot of things. No, I was a dreamer. Everything that I dream happens, so I will have psychic visions. And then at the age of 12, I started to lay my hands. No, my hands on my mother because she was then sick with cancer. And she will always ask me to lay my hands on her. And there are lots of healers that come into our house. And sometimes they will tell me, oh, this lady, this little girl, this little girl is a gifted one and she's going to heal like that. So I grew up with that kind of thinking. And I realized when I was already at this age, maybe at 40s, no, when I was about to really teach about something about career, I realized I never thought about having a career. My thought was always how to serve God. So everything that happens in my life and all the work that I had before was really my way of serving, serving God. So that was just my thought the whole time. So the whole time that I was growing up, how to serve God, and how to serve God is always through the people. You know, so that's
Mm-hmm.
why I was led into a development work. And all the work that I had it always deals with the people. So that's what happened to me. And the reason why I was led to Reiki was because I was asking God, God, what is the name of the healing that I was doing? I realized there's a name for the others. And I said to myself, I don't want to be called like a folk healer in the barrio. God, please lead me to a name that I can call. And then I have a group of an ecofeminism group that I lead. And then there was somebody who's performing Reiki. And I said to myself, ah, I think that's the one that resonates to what I'm doing. And then I prayed to God, God, if this is really for me, can you please lead me to my teacher? And that's how I got into Reiki. And everything that Happens to
Mhm.
be in my Reiki life is really based on the prayer. And whatever I pray, it just happens.
Thank you for
So I
sharing
just
that.
really think,
Yes, Master
welcome.
Isa. And one of the things that I really resonate with what you said, if you have that perfect clarity of mind, especially you've been meditating since you were 8 years old, it's a lot
Mhm.
easier for you to have that order in your mindset, because we both know as coaches that a lot of the problems that people go through is not because they're meant to experience challenges, but because of the lack of order in the mind and how it actually reasons out. And without meditation or tuning into the power and
Mhm.
presence of God within you, it's so difficult to actually organize what you're supposed to do. Because going back to my
Yeah.
Reiki manual in my third level Reiki with you, one of the things that you pointed out was what made the distinct uh, thing about Dr. Mikao Usui was that he had a well organized mind, because prior to Reiki, he also had an
Mhm.
experience with another form of healing. So,
Yes.
Master
Yeah.
Ice, I want to point that out and really shine the spotlight on that topic, because we know that aside from having an orderly mind, it's also very, very important to have order in one's space, because they
Mhm.
actually complement each other. And without order within, it's also going to reflect in the space where it's very disorganized. And then it's no wonder that a lot of people go through challenges unnecessarily. And it also
Mhm.
does affect greatly what happens in the mental well-being of a person. So please expand how all those things are interconnected.
You in the space around, right? The
Yes,
space around.
the space around and what happens in the inner workings of the mind.
Yes, yes, yeah. Um, it's innate in the Eastern philosophy. No, uh, in the Taoist medicine, it says that the energy happens or everything manifests in the world based on the three sources of energies. So the spiritual or the heaven, the human, and the space around. No? Then the space around, which means earth. No? So as an energy human being, we are all energy. We are also connected to the space around, and the space around is also energetic. So whatever happens in the space, it also affects our own self. It also affects our own thoughts. Just imagine yourself if you are going into a cramped space. How can one feel? And one will also feel cramped, right? We always feel that. So that means whatever happens around happens into your own feelings. And then later, when you always feel so cramped, your mind will also feel a little bit cramped or narrow. And then so that it affects also our own mind. Even if one is blind, we have also some kind of exercises like that when we teach about the space. If one will go into a space of blindfolded, and then will go into a space that is not cluttered, the feeling will really be expanded. But if one go into a place, even though one is blindfolded and the place is really cluttered, there will be also a different kind feeling of the space. So the space around also affect the space within. So that is really very important for us.
Thank you for sharing that, Master Isa. And Celine will
Mhm.
also actually greeted us. Good evening, Reverend
Hello,
Reg and
yeah.
Teacher
Hello,
Isa.
Celine.
Great talk. Hi, Dr. Elira. We'd love to know more about your work on mystical healing. We're currently looking for collaborators for our Reiki research. So, is this part of the Reiki Council's project, Master Isa?
It's a part of the Reiki Wellness project. And of
Yes.
course, if the Reiki Council will accept it as a project, then that it can be a collaboration with the Reiki Council.
That's
Reg,
mm,
yes, can I correct the announcement earlier? The Reiki
yeah,
conference will be on August 21, not
August
September.
21. Okay,
Yes.
August 21. Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
we will just correct the announcement. So anyway,
Yeah.
I think it's very important for any professional, whatever industry you're part of, especially for Reiki, for example, because there's still an evolving awareness here in the Philippines about it to take advantage
Yeah.
of opportunities like this because it's really the time when you get to hear other professionals about their own practice and how they were able to transform themselves from just working on themselves to later on having their own clientele. So,
Mhm.
one of the best things that I learned about Reiki from the very beginning is that Master Isa talked about the concept of energy exchange. So, I have to bring
Yeah.
that up again because, every now and then a healer or a metaphysical practitioner would ask, how do you actually convince people to value the work that you're doing as a professional healer, especially you got certified for it? Because for the part of the client, Master Isa, we know it's very important for them to actually honor it because it actually works for them. And please elaborate on that because a lot of people are still trying to understand the value of it.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Reg. First, we have to convince ourselves. We have to convince ourselves that the work that we are doing is valuable, and the work that we are doing is going to help the person who's really asking for our help. No? So that's the first one. Convince yourself or ourselves. Um, Second, we have to really understand the concept of the fem energy exchange, which is about the concept of giving and receiving. So it's a whole package. It's a whole package of the concept of life and a concept of abundance. It's not really just about giving, but it's a package of giving and receiving. Third, the fair energy exchange, although as a Reiki practitioner or a professional energy healer or any coach or whatever we call ourselves, um, we it is there's a regular fee, or fair energy exchange. But the concept of fair energy exchange is relative. So that means what is fair to you cannot be the one that is fair for another. So that means the practitioner should have that thought that the fair energy exchange is relative. And if somebody, number four, if somebody asks for what we call the discount or can you make it lower, the benefit of it is not actually to the to the to the giver, but to the one who receives. So that means if one is always asking for a discount, etc., he will not be the one going to be benefiting from the discount because it's always nice to give because everything, it's a package thing, always comes back. So let us not make um so much issue if some person as a practitioner, if some people get less or what, because what you think is less will already be sufficed by other people or in any another way or another form. It will come back to you. It will come back to you as you are also giving the one, like giving a discount or giving whatever.
Beautiful,
Mm.
Master Isa. Thank you for sharing that. And one of the things that I also want to highlight is when Dr. Mikao Usui was giving Reiki for free, there was also an issue because he realized that although he was healing people for free, it didn't really empower the people. It was like a
Yeah.
temporary relief. So please talk more about it, Master Isa, because of course, more than having a temporary relief, we know that when the body is adjusting in terms of having a discomfort, there's also a spiritual lesson behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why it's so important to actually give the exchange so that the lesson is completed spiritually. I'm very
Yeah.
sure that you can expand what I'm saying, Master Isa. So please take the floor.
Yeah. When we give the fair energy exchange with our whole heart and full, there is already a recognition. A recognition means also an acceptance of the healing. So that once recognition and acceptance of the healing will already lead you into a trust and hope that everything will really go into a full healing. So that's why it's really actually faster for people who really give and recognize the fair energy exchange. It's really faster for them to heal, not because they give money or what, but because of the meaning of how they give. It's really a recognition of the healing, a recognition of the word, and acceptance and a belief. And that is very important. Faith is very important.
Thank you for sharing that, Master Isa. And faith actually is such a beautiful word for me. It's one of my favorite spiritual mind powers that we talk about in my studies in Unity. And before I
Mhm.
proceed, Kay is here. Good evening, Miss Isa and Reverend Redstan. So,
Hello.
hello, Kay. So, anyway, we talked about faith, and it's such an important thing to realize that faith is actually a mind power that we can exercise. Faith is not a side
Yeah.
effect because something happened to you. Faith is a power that you actually exercise in order for you to bring about the change that you actually want to experience. So, Master Isa, we know that anyone who goes through a healing session or a coaching session, it's always a partnership with the coach or the healer and the client. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not the responsibility of the coach entirely, and it's also not the responsibility of the client entirely. They're actually in an energetic partnership, and that's why the faith factor has to be present. They both have to believe in each other's capacity to complete the intention.
Yeah.
So please talk more about it, Master Isa, because we know that in terms of energetic healing, there's a very big factor when people resonate with each other. And we just both know that there are instances when people don't resonate, and it doesn't mean anything. It's just that some cases people resonate with each other, and some cases they don't resonate with each other. And why does that actually happen?
Okay. So with regards to faith, um, faith can be different levels, no? Faith in God that I'm going to be healed through this healer, or faith in the healer. And that usually happens, no? Without disregarding that God is there, but that there's so much faith in the healer. So healing usually happens when there's really an acceptance of the healing. And we never know what really happens to the healing because we are just a channel of healing. But there are really many factors that really affects the healing. You know? So one, in my experience, even if the person does not really feel or resonate with the faith, no, with the healer or not, or with me, which I haven't experienced yet. But even if the person does not really believe in Reiki, that they are just going to really be having that as an experience, we never know how God will work. Because sometimes it happens that because of the experience, suddenly they will have the faith on the practice. They will have the faith on the healing. So that means that the doubt is for the person to experience and to bring back the faith of healing. Experience and bring back the faith of healing. So that's one, to bring back. Second, for the others is for really to strengthen the faith that they already have. But it is always about the faith. Healing is about the faith. Whether it's going really going to bring back the faith, the other one is to really strengthen their faith on healing. I always say to my students, even if you don't, the client doesn't believe in Reiki, as long as this person allows you to do the healing, then heal them. Because something magical always happens. Because healing is why it is about touching the true self. And the true self of us is really there, whether one wants to believe in the healing or not, but the true self is there. So it's going to be touched in any other way. So the faith will really be enhanced. That's one of the gifts of the healing. And that's what all experience as Reiki practitioners. With regards to one healing doesn't resonates with one healer, there are many factors. Maybe their energies are not really intertwined, or others, a healer is intimidated by the attitude of the healer who really shows that he or she does not believe. No, so there are many factors, but the task of the healer is go beyond that intimidation. No,
Oh,
we should really dismiss this kind of conflicts, but go beyond.
thank you for sharing
Mm.
that, Master Isa. It's such a powerful thing that you mentioned that the attitude of the person can actually affect the confidence of the healer. So, especially,
Mhm.
if you're a young healer and then you're dealing with older clients, what should be your frame of mind? How can you actually handle people older than you? Because for me, one of the things that made me confident was because I've done it so many times. So, what would you recommend others to do to build up their confidence, to heal other
Mhm.
people, especially if they're old?
But okay, I recommend that one goes beyond one's identity. Go beyond your age. Go beyond who you are. Just tell yourself, I am a channel of God and I will be serving God through healing. So if that is only your one track of mind, you go beyond your personality. So I myself grew up that I'm always with the older people. I am teaching, I am leading, I am healing, counseling older people, and when I look at them, I don't see them by age. And I don't see my age. So for us to really overcome that is we have to go beyond our own, above our identity, our personality. Just be a channel of light.
Beautiful, Master
Yeah.
Isa. Thank you for sharing that. And Kay was actually saying the true nature, yes, touching
Yes.
each true nature can be synonymous to faith because oneness happens. Thanks, Miss Isa. So anyway,
Yeah.
as healers, it's easy for us to comprehend when we talk about oneness and the true self. But,
Mm-hmm.
these concepts are actually oblivious for a lot of people who don't actually talk about things like this. So I think it's important for us to break down what the true self is and the concept of oneness because it's just something that not everybody actually understands.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Yes. Um, to understand this, we have to go back to a child or to our experience as a child. If you see a child, they always feel confident. Yeah? They always feel beautiful. So we have to go back because the child's nature is our true nature. And all of us has a beautiful part within. All of us, even the person who you think is a killer, a murderer, etc., they always have this kindness. And that is what we call our true nature. That's why we always say Oh, even though he's doing like that, but you know he's kind because the kindness is the true nature. So we go back to our true nature when we talk about true nature. It's our true nature where we have started. We have started with the purity of our heart as a young child, the beauty of the world, seeing the beauty of the world, the purity of the mind, the joy in everything that we see. You see, the child is really like ecstatic to everything that they see, even small little child. And there's always hope when you see a child and you tell them, "Oh, we'll do that later, huh?" But you know they have no comprehension of what is later, when is the later, but they will just say, "Okay," because they're also um, very hopeful, no? Very hopeful. Yes, Celine, that's really, we are just pure souls.
Thank you for sharing that, Master Isa.
Mm-hmm.
And Celine, it's such a beautiful thing that you mentioned that. But to, fundamental religionists, when you talk about pure souls, again, it goes back to the concept of people being sinners. And that's why it's very challenging for the Filipino collective consciousness to understand what it means to be childlike. And
Mm-hmm.
Master Isa, please talk more about it because, of course, with your passion for God and your passion for healing,
Mm-hmm.
you can reconcile where that mindset of being a sinner and having pure souls, like what Celine mentioned, and being childlike. Where do you now put those things and how do you actually put them together given the sinner consciousness that has been going around for many, many centuries in our conditioning as a collective?
Yeah. Reverend Rich, we already are developing the Christian Reiki, and we have already several classes of that. And, one of the things that we pointed out in the Christian Reiki is really changing the way we see ourselves as Christian. So we have two choices. Which would you choose? The first one is we are created in the image of God, and the other one is we are a sinner. So if we're going to look at it in all the history, the concept of we are a sinner only happens during the time when we are really separating our body, mind, and spirit, and we see the human beingness as really a sinner, a sin, no, a sinner. But in the olden times, we always look at it as we are created in the image of God. And I have seen when I go to mass online every week, a Bishop Ambo who was always saying, focus on we are created in the image of God. So we are healing ourselves into that thought that we are a sinner. But come to think of it, in the history of the church, when Jesus Christ came, his experience is supposed to be to release us from that sin. So why do we always need to stay in that very sad state of being a sinner? So let's choose that we are created in the image of God. And what is the creation in the image of God? It's about love, no? It's being compassionate. That's how it's being creative. That's how God is. No? God is the creator. So we can really be creative. Think of everything that you think how God is to you. And if you are created under the image of God, then that is really you.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Master Isa, because of course it's a narrative that has played along in our consciousness for a really long time. And in fact, I have
Mhm.
guested so many people, especially in the LGBTQIA community. And
Mhm.
that concept of sinner has actually stuck to a lot of the LGBTQ people, even the parents. That's why it's very challenging for quite some time to be in the space where you mentioned that, if you think of God as being creative, as being joyful, as being someone capable, and if you see yourself that way, then you're going to contribute something worthwhile in this planet Earth. And
Yes.
we know that when we talk about energy, we're not only talking about the physical health status, but also the health status of our finances and the health
Mm-hmm.
status of our relationships with our families, with our friends, with our colleagues, especially the significant other. So, Reiki has put me in the space where it has helped me become more collected despite of what's happening around me. So
Mm-hmm.
please expand on it, Master Isa, because Reiki as a form of healing, and it deals with the healing of the true self, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's releasing the illusion of the ego self. Please talk more about it and why it affects other areas of one's life if their energy is not in the space where it is cool, calm, collected, and well balanced.
Thank you, Reg. So, Reiki is a form of spiritual healing, and aside from hands-on healing, there's really a five Reiki principles. In the five Reiki principles, we say, just for today, I will not be angry. So that means we are allowing this anger to be released from us. No? And there's also, just for today, I will not worry. So worries about money, everything that you worry, family, etc. So that means you have to let it go. And when we let it go, that means we try to trust the unknown and the unknown future, the unseen God. That's part of it. So when we allow this trust to happen, we are led to the areas of our life that really needs healing. So in the process of being a Reiki practitioner, I myself was led to the different areas of my life that I need healing. No? Family, relationship, finances, the way I see the world, no? Because before I was really a little bit separated. So you know that I really see myself really down to the earth. So it leads you into really seeing by the different principles that we use. The third principle is, just for today, I will be grateful. The fourth is, I just for today, I will work hard or I will work joyfully. And the last is, just for today, I'll be kind to others. I am loved. So by the principle, we are led into that healing. And then, of course, if you do healing to yourself or you had Reiki, energetically, the energy knows where to go. Now, God knows where your healing should be. So if you're not being healed physically, there's something happening in your thoughts. Now, yesterday, we led a I led a holy meditation, and holy meditation is integration of the different meditation types of meditation, breath work, um, mindfulness, and the Reiki principles. And one of the participants really said that he was led into the gratitude. Something came into his mind that led him to the gratitude of the things that he was not able to see. So that's how Reiki works, by just saying the five Reiki principles, and he was led into a certain illumination or awakening of the word gratitude. That he should be grateful of something that he was not aware of before. So that's how Reiki works, no? Through the principle and through the healing. You will be led. You will be led. That's why we also face different problems one step at a time. Even if one is not a Reiki practitioner, think of this, that the problem that you are facing are really the kind of things that you need to really resolve at this moment of time. And if you will see that way, God will lead you into easing more and easing more about your life. So it's another way of looking things, how things happen into our life, rather than thinking it as a problem, but really thinking it as a phase. And if it is a phase, then you will really be led into how to really solve or make things easier in your life, phase by phase.
Thank you for sharing that, Master Isa. And actually, in the past, I used to call the difficulties in my life as problems myself. And then
Mm-hmm.
it evolved into the word challenges. And then I began telling myself that, it's just a spiritual strengthening process.
Yeah.
Because I realized for myself that when I began changing the name of what I was going through, especially if it was quite difficult,
Mm-hmm.
I call it
Yes.
a soul stretching experience because one of my favorite authors was saying, prayer is a way for the soul to expand so that you can grow big enough in consciousness to receive the thing that you're asking for in prayer. And to me, Reiki is just like praying for somebody else if you're the one healing the person. And
Mm-hmm.
when you're healing yourself is actually a form of prayer for yourself, a practice of loving
Yeah.
kindness towards yourself. So it's a very powerful thing to go through. And the thing is, we don't think of it as something powerful because it's such a gentle,
Mm-hmm.
effective energy. So, Master Isa, please reconcile the two because for me, I see it as a very powerful energy healing technique. But a lot of us, when we talk about power, it has to be aggressive. But the power of Reiki is in its gentleness.
Yes. Yes. So yeah, we always think of the power that is aggressive is based on fear. So there's really an aggression because there's a fear inside. So, but when there is courage, the power is gentle. You will even never know that it is a power, but it moves mountain, right? So that's a difference between the power that is a real power coming from within, the real power as a courage, and the power that is an aggression, which is based on fear.
Amazing, Master Isa. Especially, we know that your husband, Gath Hewlett, is also a martial arts practitioner. So,
Yeah.
how do we actually reconcile that, Master Isa? Because we know that martial arts in itself is a systematic way of actually bringing out stagnant energy. At least that's how I feel about it because a lot of my creativity is also heightened when I do martial arts. But at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, we know that martial arts is a form of self defense. And
Mm-hmm.
as a form of self defense, Master Isa, there's actually art and science behind how it's done. And contrary to what you said, there is a difference between courage and being aggressive. So I see it now when I process it for myself, especially Celine mentioned, I love that the power of Reiki is that its gentleness. Yes, that's actually how I perceive it because of my own experience of it. But anyway, going to that martial arts thing, because I think of martial arts as a form of self assertion so
Mm-hmm.
that people don't think of you as, because when you're gentle, you're kind, you're soft spoken, people think that you can actually be just a pushover. But we know in martial arts, it actually balances your polarity, your yin and your yang energy. So, what is called as power, which is called aggression by force, we know in martial arts, it's a form of assertion. And I know that you also practice martial arts. So, please explain more about it because it's one of the amazing ways to actually have in the gym we say we cross train for yoga, you do bodybuilding and your cross training is yoga, you do reiki, and another form of cross training for you can be martial arts. So Please share it, Master Isa, why it can also be helpful that aside from doing Reiki, you have another form of modality like martial arts.
Okay. Well, I thank God I'm fortunate to also be learning from my husband. And um, I would like to speak about first as a Taoist medicine practitioner. In the Taoist medicine practitioner, if you would like to be a Taoist medicine practitioner, you should also practice Kung Fu or practice Qigong or Tai Chi, which are all martial arts and also energy cultivating exercise. So what I was taught is that the self-defense that we are thinking are that we said into a regular martial artist. Not I will. What I'm saying is a regular martial artist is the one who practice martial arts as not a form of spiritual practice, because in the original, all of the originals of martial arts, it came really from a spiritual practice, but later it became very physical and now no longer related into the spiritual practice. But what my teacher, even my husband, was telling me was what we call the self-defense in the real spiritual martial arts. It's about self-preservation. And when we preserve ourselves, we also preserve the opponent. So that means, if possible, there will be no aggression. So in Kung Fu, it was said that when an energy is given to you in aggression, you use this energy to protect yourself and to also protect the opponent. So that's how I was taught. So the self-defense is not in a form of aggression, but a self-defense on how you can protect yourself and also protecting the hurt of the opponent. So
Beautiful.
using the energy to really protect each other. So you give back the energy, but not in aggression, but as a form of protection. That's
Thank
how I see
Amazing,
it.
Master Isa. And Kay was saying Reiki love. Yes, indeed. And it's so important to know these things because a lot of us operate on autopilot, especially we think that we live in a purely physical or material world. But in
Mm-hmm.
truth, everything physical actually came from the spiritual level or the ideal level. And that's why I think it's so essential for us to learn principles of Reiki or principles about martial arts and principles about feng shui as well, because it has to do with balance and harmony within ourselves and with our surroundings. Because we know that we all want to live happy and fulfilled lives. At least I think every normal human being is aspiring for something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
because we live in a world where our awareness only about the physical gets heightened, then we haven't really developed our intuitive senses to realize the interconnectivity of things. And I like what you mentioned, Master Isa, about even martial arts, which was a very spiritual practice. It became
Mm-hmm.
a very physically oriented modality, maybe because of
Yeah.
evolution. So Master Isa, please talk about why a person's spirituality is important to study and why should people actually pay attention to it.
Mhm. Yes. First, because we are not only a physical being, no, we are all studying that when go to church and we believe that there's a soul. Therefore, we are really thinking about there's not only a physical body, but also a non-physical body, which is a soul. But when we think about spirituality, it's not really about really just going into the church or really working into your religion, but it is really about your connectedness to God, your connectedness to who you really are. That is what we mean by spirituality. And religions are your tools, no? It can be your way to know God, but God is not confined into one religion. So later, if you are really sincere and you are really willing to really learn, you will find yourself practicing beyond your religion. You can be still in your church, but you understand that the God that you know is not only confined to your own religion, but it is really beyond the religion. So it's very important for us to really understand and to follow our spirituality because it answers several questions in our life. It answers something about how one can live happily. It answers about how can one live without fear, no? And how we can really integrate that we are living here in the world and at the same time living with the spirit and the body. So what is your spirit need? What does your spirit need? What does your body need? They are all intertwined. You cannot really say in Reiki, we practice a meditation where we combine or we integrate the heaven and the earth. So that means bringing your understanding of the spirit of God and bringing it to how we live in life. So you cannot really be believing God, saying that there is God, and you live in a chaos on the physical world because the physical world is not important. That's how sometimes we have really forgotten our body before because we don't think that body is important. That's a platonic thinking, yeah? Or dualist thinking. Or you cannot really just live in the body without thinking about God. That's why we are a human being created in the image of God because we have a higher spirit, which is a divine spirit within us, different from animals, different from plants, because we have the higher spirit. So living with the spirituality is important so that we can really be integrated as a human being. That's where you're going to really feel the happiness without or with all the things that you have physically. There's always an inner joy. That is the result of being in the spirit or being one with your own practice of spirituality. No matter how you want it to practice, it's based on the path that you will be led to.
Amazing.
And different spirituality is also based on different consciousness. So each one to each own consciousness, and it's not higher or level, but it's based on where you are now in your path.
Thank you for sharing that, Master
Mhm.
Isa. And it's amazing what you mentioned that it's also based on our consciousness, whatever path you are in right now. And if you truly absorb the idea that God is infinite and God is all knowing and can be present everywhere, then you will not be confined to your religion or your church, and you will see the value of other spiritual practices, which is actually a very beautiful thing. So
Mhm.
anyway, Master Isa, we're coming to the last portion of the hour. And I always ask my guests if there's one perspective that you want to leave with me and the rest of the viewers so that we can immediately act on it, what would that be?
I would like us to release the fear. We are fear is a disconnection from our divine source. Fear usually happens when we feel so alone and there's nothing that can really solve our problem. So we have been panicky over the COVID-19. There's a chaos whether one should be vaccinated or not. But we have to trust that God will lead you to the answer. And then God is going to solve this problem. And we are going to be protected. So let us release the fear because the fear energetically depletes our own energetic body, and then it will deplete our physical body. What we put in our mind happens, what we worry happens. So instead of fear, let us imagine that everyone will be well, everyone will be protected. Instead of counting how many people got sick, let's count how many get well. And yeah, that's all. So that's release the fear, release the
Thank you for
worries.
sharing. Thank you for sharing that, Master Isa. It's such a powerful thing. And instead of imagining the difficulty or the negativity, you should focus on how many were protected. And just the thought of releasing it is actually very important. And we know that through meditation, it's a lot easier to do. But if a person doesn't have yet a meditation practice, it might be a concept just in their heads right now. But that's
Prayers.
why I encourage everyone as well. Master Isa facilitates meditation weekly, and she will have a Reiki conference. So I invite everyone to actually keep in touch with her through Reiki Wellness Manila. And what other thing would you like to remind our viewers, Master Isa?
Uh, we are going to have we are already inviting everyone for those who are Reiki practitioners to be a part of the Philippine Reiki affiliate. The way how to become a member is also there in Reiki Wellness Manila website, so you can look at it. And for others also who are Reiki practitioners already, we are already in the second course for the Reiki professional training, which we are holding since June up to December. So there will be a series of training to train Reiki practitioners in different fields. That is very important in our Reiki professional practice. And we're already coming up with the becoming a meditation teacher, and it's going to be on July 17th, starting July 17th. So all the details, you will see that in Reiki Wellness Manila website, and also in the Reiki Wellness Manila webpage in Facebook.
All right.
So, yeah, thank you very
Thank you so
much.
much, Master Isa. I had a great time, and I trust that when the date of the conference is a lot closer, we can have you again for another interview and maybe with some members of the Reiki Council. Thank you so much,
Yes,
Master Isa.
thank you very much. Thank you very much, Reg. More blessings
Welcome.
to you.
Thank you, Master. So, Satnam, everyone, I trust that you're all able to pick up something from my talk with Master Isa. It's a very powerful, transformative experience, especially for a lot of people who ask me about coming out to their families. I think before you even come out, because we just had the Pride celebration last month. I encourage all of you to invest in a Reiki healing session with Reiki Wellness Manila and then see for yourself how your mental and emotional patterns are changing before you do anything, like coming out to your families if it's something that's really important to you. And for me, my takeaway really is like what Master Isa said earlier, it's about working joyfully. I love what I do. And to me, you will minimize a lot of problems in life if you just work joyfully and you have that devotion about your craft. Mabuhay, everyone. I'm again reminding you, live and go beyond existing and have fun always.